Welcome back to my channel. It is I, Janice or Barb. Just do not call me Janice or Barbara. And today we are going to get into this Kandi and the Gang recap and review for season 1, episode 3, Rowdy employees and uptight managers. Okay. It's a very befitting title, if I do say so myself. But let's get right into it. So, episode begins with Torrin and Philip. You know, from last week, they were kind of going at it just a little bit. And actually, it wasn't even them going at it as much as it was Philip, you know, asserting his position, and Torrin matching that same energy. That's all I can really say about it. Quite honestly, I really don't feel like everyone, I'm seeing all the opinions are kind of torn right now, being as though like some people are saying on one hand, Torrin should have came in and formally introduced himself, and you know that he should have taken that time out, you know, after seeing as though Philip was in there first. He is the new manager and yada yada yada. And I'm like, okay, I understand that, but I also, on the other hand, am understanding the people that are like, but he didn't even come in with no type of attitude. Philip just kind of, you know, was Philipping at the end of the day. Like, Pompous Philip, that's what I'm gonna call him from now on. Pompous Philip was in there Philipping. And, you know, it's really hard to, again, work under someone who just comes off so just like, yes, you need to be professional, but like you also need to kind of be personable. And he other than his interaction with his boyfriend Felipe, like he just has never been personable very much to me, but whatever. Anyway, so they kind of go, you know, say a little bit back and forth real quick, and then Torrin gets up because Philip's like, I'm actually gonna go back to doing my work because that's actually more interesting than this. And Torrin's like, oh, you did me one bet. You did me a favor actually, because I'm gonna head on over here. And of course, Philip had to throw in there. Again, it's like he always feels the need to like assert his position and his authority. And I'm just like, they know that you're the manager. So I really don't think the issue is them not recognizing that you're in this managerial role. Like, so you don't need to keep reiterating the fact that you can suspend, fire, terminate. Like, you don't need to keep throwing those things around, because it like, you shouldn't. That's like a show of coercive power, if you ask me. And that just doesn't appeal to me per se. But okay. Torrin heads into the actual main restaurant where Kandi is just showing up, and they kind of sit down and start to talk about, she's like, you know, how do you like the space and this, that, and the other thing. Philip, of course, walks in scowling, like literally, like, relax your face. Like, it's a handsome face. Relax it. And he beelines straight to Don Juan to be like, he told Don Juan that Torrin needs to report straight to him. And before we even get into that, back at between Kandi and Torrin, as Philip walks by, or when his name came up in conversation, Torrin let her know that, yeah, he's not a fan of Philip either. So that also brings you back to what I was saying. Then Kandi proceeds to go in, sit down with Don Juan and Philip, and that's when he said, yeah, if this is how it's going to be, he needs to report directly to you guys. And on one hand, I kind of understand it, but it was the way that Philip said it that was kind of like ruffled Kandi's feathers, rightfully so. Like, no, I hired you to manage, not manage some of the employees, or not like, you're supposed to be taking the reins here. So you can't really be picky choosy about not wanting to deal with certain personalities or whatever. Like it's your job to tailor your management style in order to lead each and every employee effectively. So when you say, nope, here you go, that kind of, that's like that's a conflict. And she was like, yeah, I'm paying you. You're not paying me. So who are you talking to like that? Because I would have been the same way. Again, it's like I can kind of see it on one hand because Torrin is clearly not going to be like an hourly, like wage employee. So I kind of think it wouldn't be too bad for him just to deal with Don Juan or Kandi or whatever. However, we're trying to navigate away from them having to be down there all day, every day. Because she has umpteen other businesses, you know, to run. So she can't be there. Don Juan can't be there. Like, so weird situation. Meanwhile, at Patrick's house, we see Torrin again. He's coming over there to give a little bit of his you know, styling expertise, if you will. Because Patrick, they just moved into the place. And I really like that place. Like, I want to live there. No. I like my house. Don't get me wrong. But I like unique spaces and like loftish slash like just cool setup apartments. And it looks pretty spacious. So y'all picked a good place. But Torrin's gonna basically help him decorate and everything. And Patrick, something is wrong with him, yo. Something is really wrong with Patrick, because at one point he was like, yeah, and on here I want to put like, you know, the sex swings, and in his closet he's like, I want to put, you know, whip strings, all this other stuff. And I'm just like, okay, so clearly the whole sex kinky dungeon shit runs in the family, if you know what I mean. Cause what? But okay, do you, whatever you want to do behind your closed doors, ain't got to do with me. Moving on. And then meanwhile we get back and we see Brian at work, and he's, you know, working, whatnot. And Chandrika is actually, for a minute she was like busting tables and doing a whole bunch of other stuff other than being up at the front. So I was kind of like, what's going on? And we find out that she's doing that, and everything's kind of in a disarray because Dominique is nowhere to be found. I wonder why. Oh, she's dancing. You know, her first love, you know, the thing that she puts before anything else. And I'm sorry, she's a sweet girl. She seemed cool. Like, I don't have anything against her, not trying to stop her bag, but that just wouldn't work for me as an employer. Like, I just, or we would need to hire another, like, she's the only. So wait, who is the other bartender? Have they showed the other bartender? Obviously, we are only seeing a select amount of staff members in the show, obviously, but because obviously Brian didn't come back to be a bartender, so I'm assuming they have a couple other ones, obviously, but they need to, instead of just having an alternate or whatever, because, you know, everyone has their job that they go to, you know, they work a full-time schedule or whatever, so maybe they could get away with having, you know, a handful, but they need one more than a normal amount of bartenders, I feel like, to supplement the amount of time that she's not going to be there at times because she's dancing, if that makes sense. But anyway, she's late. Brandon is condoning it because he, you know, calls her, or she FaceTimes him. It's like, yeah, I just got finished dancing and ran over or whatever. I'll be there soon. And he's like, okay. And then sits at the bar and proceeds to eat wings as all this chaos is erupting. The sink is overflowing. He was trying to get somebody to come out and fix it. It looked disgusting. Like, if I was sitting at that bar and I peeked over and saw that sink like that, no ma'am, I'm out. Like, that would make me literally lose my appetite. So yeah, you guys need to get that in check. And the whole thing was just like, I'm like, how did it get so messy? That is not a 1 day's worth of accumulated dirt and mess. I don't believe that one bit. I don't believe that one bit, and I don't want to be sipping on no drinks that come from a bar. I don't even drink anyway, but that's beside the point. I don't want to be sipping on no drinks that come from a bar that look like that. So y'all need to, again, that's the area, y'all need to do better. The fuck? And So while Brandon's sitting there after all that happens, just eating his wings, acting like he's not paying attention to anything and going on and seeing the state of how things are around him, Brian's like, okay. So then he has to make the drinks. And we know that he has suffered with his alcoholism in the past, very, very recently. So that could possibly trigger something in him. He did not, and I get it. If the job description said you may have to fill in other positions at times, then okay, I get it. You know, I get it. That's where, you know, it's going to be kind of difficult at times probably, but you might be asked to do something that could be slightly controversial for you personally. I get that. But it seemed like everybody was cool and accepting of him coming back in the role of a server. So for you, Brandon, to be aware of the terms of which he came back on, and you're not stepping in to feel like that's the whole I haven't worked in like the food industry in a long time, but like my first job, for example, Burger King, whenever like we didn't have like a cook or someone in the back or someone over here or someone over here, the whole point of managers there was that before they even hit the shift for real, they had to go through training to be able to do all of the roles that in case in the event that an employee doesn't show up, they call out, something like we're just short staffed, whatever happens, they need to be able to fill that role at the drop of a dime so that to support the overall productivity, like point blank. So again, shame on Brandon. I thought that was whack AF. And thank God Dominique finally shows up and she's like, well, my bar, you gotta clean up your bar, sorry. Filthy. When I say filthy. Next we see Philip he actually goes over to Chandrika to ask her, like, what's up, what's been going on today or whatever. And she, that's one thing I will give her, like, her executing her own job sometimes can be hit or miss, but like the minute that she's doing something beyond her job description, once again, she's letting it be known. Like I think I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain her necessarily, but she's gonna keep it real about some stuff if she has to be picking. She's not gonna let people, even though she be slacking in her job, she's not gonna let others around her slack in their jobs, if that makes sense, because she's not about to pick up nobody's slack. Right there. Boom. Back to what I was saying, y'all. So at this point, we see after Philip got word that shit was all in disarray, Philip takes Brandon outside there's also a new intern manager named Tamika that came out of nowhere, and I was like, whatever. And those three, they walk outside where Philip basically tells Brandon, you need to, like, you can't, he just acts like another one of the employees. Like, he acts like he's just their best friend, or he's not assertive enough. And you can be assertive without being an asshole. And I feel like Philip kind of walks the line of assholeness or whatever. So maybe that makes Brandon or whoever else like feel like, oh no, he just wants me to act like him. Like, no, you don't have to necessarily act like him, but you do need to kick it up a notch because no one is taking your authority serious. Especially this whole episode, these staff members need to be led by example. And Brandon clearly is not someone who is capable at this time to lead by example. Like, he's putting out the worst possible example, and they're following suit because, hey, Brandon can do it. He's a manager. He can do it. He doesn't hold us accountable, so we're gonna do it too. Like, no. But he basically says that's not his style, and to be strict. whatever. Fast forward, we see Melvin, Torrin, and Patrick. They go down to this bar that they frequent often. And then Dominique shows up, Brandon shows up, you know. In his case, I do see it as a conflict of interest, not only because he's dating Dominique, but because they see you in these social settings and these informal settings and whatnot, and that's the image that you create and put in their head, that they could just, they can just come up to you and, you know, shoot the shit or whatever. No, you need to put a stop to that, because they don't respect you as a manager, like, and it's your doing. But whatever. And Chandrika and her fiance June, they come up. I mean, he's not bad. They're a good looking couple, you know. He's more of like the quieter, laid back type, I guess. And then she's more, you know. So, best of both worlds. They balance each other out. Cute, cute, cute. And we also find out that apparently, previously, June and Patrick kind of got into a little spat, if you will, because I don't know, like, what really went down between Patrick and Chandrika, because she says one thing, he says one thing, and their energy, like, if everybody, I thought everybody was just like on the whole, like, oh yeah, we all, you know, screw each other and, you know, messed around, but we're all cool, like, it's like cool, whatever. There's still some weird, something happened between them. Like, it's just weird. Weird. But they all sit down, and Patrick basically invites the entire table to his housewarming. Like I said before, Torrin's going to be redecorating everything in the house. So, redecorating the apartment, and he would like to show off his new decorated apartment to everyone. And Chandrika's like, I don't really know, like, it's not really something I would go to. Yeah, and it's just like, okay, what, they don't go, whatever, moving on. Oh, we also, I found out in this episode, at least, that cousin Weenie is Patrick's mom. So I'm like, okay, I'm just putting together like Kandi's family tree throughout this whole thing. So I'm trying to like get the full picture, because I'm just weird like that, don't mind me. So we go back to OLG, where, again, Brandon continues to not lead by example, and it only causes further conflict where, or due to him not leading by example the previous day and sitting at the bar, eating his wings, doing whatever he wants. No one is supposed to be sitting at the bar during work hours, whatever. That's perfectly fine. That makes perfect sense to me. Richard and Brian took it upon themselves to sit down and take a load off at the bar. And when Brandon came over and was like, hey, you guys gotta, you know, move it along. You know, you're not supposed to be sitting here during working hours or whatever. And Brian didn't really like give him any like crazy sass or any, like, it wasn't really like he popped off on him, to me at least. He was just being Brian. Like, if you would rather him be less colorful and just, got it, good, I'm sorry, like, I just don't think you're ever going to get that from him, because that's just his personality. He's like a lighthearted guy, and it's not like he didn't get up or like was, again, like being super confrontational about it, I feel like. But I'm sure someone in the comments will call me biased because I like Brian, and oh, you just like him, so that's why you're saying, like, no, like, I get it, but again, like, sometimes, yeah, you don't want to hear that. You just want the employee to just do what you need them to do at that moment. I get it, but still, I don't really think that this, like, if this is what gets him suspended for whatever time being, like, I just don't think that was suspension worthy. Like, he didn't, whatever. Richard, he got up pretty much promptly, though. And so after that whole thing, Brandon, I think, Philip comes in, and Brandon says that both Brian and Shardo, like, kind of were sitting at the bar, which was like an issue, obviously, and that Shardo got up, but Brian kind of was like, you know, lingering around, saying whatever. So then, of course, Philip goes into Don Juan, and tells him what Brandon just told him, and he more so is saying that this is Brandon's fault, which I agree. Like, they do whatever they want because you're the first hand person that's been just allowing whatever to go on. So you could have handled that situation better, but you didn't. And then you try to use this as like your teaching way to show how you handle conflicts as a manager, and I just think that it was just bogus AF to me. So then, of course, now it's Philip, Brandon, Brian, and Don Juan sitting down, and this is where again things start to go left. Brian's like, "Oh boy, what I do now?" And Philip's like, "See, at least you know that you did something wrong." And I'm like, "Oh boy." So Don Juan's like, I've known you longest out of everyone sitting right here, and it's an attitude thing. And again, I don't work there, so I only know what they're showing right now, but I don't really feel, again, that, I don't know what I feel. But Philip's whole thing is that Brian just has a lot of mouth and he don't want to deal with that, and he's lazy, he hasn't been doing anything, he hasn't been pulling his weight, and yada, yada, yada. And Brian is just kind of like, okay. Because in the back of his mind, he's thinking, you're only going to be here for 5 minutes and you're going to be gone just like the rest, the 10 other previous managers. And like, although I understand, it's just kind of like, sometimes in life, you just got to play the game, man. You just got to play the game. It's stupid. It's annoying. I hate to even have to say that, but sometimes you just got to go with the flow of things, and until you get to a point where then, yeah, you can have your own restaurant. You can run it how you want to or whatever. But this whole thing went left because I think Philip just used this as like, he wanted to just be completely done and his hands clean with Brian. And I'm just like, again, I don't feel like this should result in that, but whatever. And Brian was just like, oh, so we don't have free speech? And he's like, no, you don't. And of course he was saying some smart stuff, and it was funny. It was real funny. But Philip's like, no, and he suspends him. And I'm just like, okay. Before he can, leave for the day, though, Don Juan's like, come, take a walk with me or whatever. So they go outside and have a little chat or whatever, and maybe he would receive it better from Don Juan again because he has known him longer. So he gives him some good sound advice, and hopefully he receives that, and going forward, they can learn how to coexist up in OLG. But anyway, when Don Juan goes back, he was just like, Philip was like, I am, I basically that whole situation brought him out of his character. He lost his cool about that. He didn't like how that whole thing went down. And Don Juan is also kind of like, with Philip, he's like, this is, I get it, but this is like the third time with another employee. And it's kind of like, you're here to help and to, do stuff. And you're not really like being as effective as you probably could. So Philip, though, he wasn't really trying to hear that, and again, he's fed up, so he flips his shit and walks off and goes in his car, and it's just like, and I don't know did he come back that same day? I think maybe he did, but he was so done in that moment. And again, this is, for most of these things I see it both sides, but it's just like, again, it's for Philip, I'm like, you would save yourself a lot more stress if you just tailor your leadership approach to fit this type of establishment and this particular group of staff members. Because right now, it's like they're speaking one language and you're speaking, like, it's like oil and water. It's just not working. So you as a manager need to communicate in a way that makes them want to work for you and allows you to lead them, and they understand actually what they're doing. No one just wants to do and not understand Like, I get the whole, like, feeling like it's a questioning authority or whatever you want to call it. I get that, but at the same time, like, educate them on why things go a certain way, and they'll understand and be like, oh, okay, I see why we shouldn't sit at the bar. That makes sense. Like, let them in on the full picture other than just, I make drink, I give drink to customer. Like, but whatever, let me stop rambling. I don't want to make this video too long. So Don Juan, I already said that. Patrick pulls up on Safari at work. We finally meet Miss Safari. She is a very beautiful girl. I didn't care for that wig though, but anyway, so we finally meet her. He is just over the moon about her, which is so cute. But she owns a body sculpting business, and so she's doing like some, like, is that cool, sculpting? Body sculpting? I should know this, right? Anyway. Yeah, but she's doing some body sculpting on him, and non-surgical lipo. And he tells her about the Torin decorating the place, and she kind of was like, oh, you don't really need him. I was like, stop. Don't do that. Don't do that. No. And he also says how he invited Chandrika to the housewarming party, and she's not with that. And I'm like, I kind of understand it because they got some weird energy still brewing between them. I don't know, man. So we'll see what goes down with that, but that was pretty much it for them. And moving right along, we see Aunt Bertha, Aunt Nora, and Mama Joyce at, I believe that's Mama Joyce's house, right? And we see them in the kitchen getting some things together, and then Chandrika comes over, and Dominique comes over, and Kandi comes over because Chandrika is going to give the ladies a swimming lesson because she's like a swim instructor. She's been swimming since she was 4. I'm like, I will give Chandrika that. Like, we cannot judge books by their cover. Like, just because she gives a lot of extra, like, you know, she does seem like a talented girl. I can't take that away from her. But they all do some, like, water aerobics, and when I tell you Aunt Bertha was over it, Tunny, she was over it with the quickness. Like, I will give it to Mama Joyce. She was getting it. Aunt Nora was getting it for a minute. Like, they were all getting it, but Aunt Bertha was like, no, I know what to do in my bathtub. And I was like, oh my God, stop. But anyway, they're done there. They wrap up and head to the picnic table to eat some lunch. And Dominique shares that Brian has been suspended. And we also get a confessional real quick with Kandi and Todd. And Todd is not surprised. And I was just like, oh, God. Fucking Todd, man. And so then Kandi asks about Chandrika and Philip because, you know, they were the first 2 people to come to verbal blows. And pretty much all the 3 OLG ladies, they like Philip. Actually, no, Aunt Bertha, Aunt Bertha, she's the one, man. She is the one. She don't see it for Philip. But I also peeped how even Aunt Nora knows about the hookups, and I was just like, oh boy, because she said, yeah, Philip, at least he's not trying to get with all the young girls or something like that. And I'm like, see, they need to make a fraternization policy. There, I said it. Sorry, not trying to dictate where anybody puts their pecker, right? But I think that's getting in the way too much. And so then Kandi says that her and Todd need to round up the staff and address the issues. And I was like, well, I guess that's a decent start. We'll see how this goes. We see what happened last time. But that was pretty much it for that scene. So then we see Torin and Brian. They meet up at the ice cream shop. And I really, they're probably my 2 favorites. They're my 2 favorites. We know that they had, you know, a thing in the past. But at this point, they're just good friends. And Torin did admit to distancing himself when Brian was going through his you know, his alcohol issues, and he apologizes for that and says, you know, I love you, I will always be here for you going forward. And Brian receives that, and he gives us even more insight into his story and where he's coming from. And he apologizes, or he accepts and shares his struggle. He says he drank to numb the stresses of work at first, and prior to that, he actually did suffer from drug abuse even prior to that. And so, you know, it was really bad, throwing up blood. Like, it was bad. He was literally drinking himself to death. Like, when he says that, like, he was literally, that's what he was doing. And I guess, like, his wake up was kind of came when he lost his sister. And it's actually only been like 3 months, apparently, where she, she took her own life, and he broke down about that. And I felt so bad for him in that moment. I really did. And again, that's when Torrin let him know that he's there for him and that he's loved. And I'm like, you know, that's the best thing you can do for someone when they're going through those very, very, very difficult situations. My heart goes out to him, and I hope he continues to heal and make progress. And I wish him nothing but the best. And I'm excited to continue to learn more about him, his story, as well as everybody else on the cast. This episode, I enjoyed it. And I know there's still so much controversy around the ratings and the show and everything. I don't care about none of that, y'all. I honestly don't. And this is coming from someone, again, who was never like the biggest Kandi fan at all. But I like what the show is giving. And I think it has a well-rounded cast. I don't know if I will be going there to eat anytime soon, but I'm liking the show. And next week should be getting even more interesting. We get a little bit more each week, and I'm really liking that. We haven't got no filler episodes yet, so please, Kandi and Bravo, please don't give us no filler episodes, okay? But y'all, let me know what you think of my recap and review of this week's episode of Kandi and the Gang. And again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!